If you read my blog or visit my website, you've noticed that it's undergone a lot of changes recently, and I have a feeling that I want to do another change. And this particular change will be on the blog page. As you see, I have several hundreds of content on my blog, and it's pretty much broken down into two categories: technology and DIY projects. That list is becoming so long that I think I want to separate those two pages. In this video, I'm going to actually do that using Bootstrap and tabs. So here we go. Because this list is as long as it is, I've been writing on my blog for 10 years now. And over those 10 years, it has transitioned through multiple platforms. It was at Drupal at one point, at WordPress at one point. I had even Blogger at one point. So I had content in a lot of different places. And I still want to keep that content. As you see here, it goes back to 2010. But I want to better organize that content. And what I'm going to do now is to actually take this one very long list and separate it into two using Bootstrap tabs. And just to get for you to see what this is really about, Bootstrap allows you to create tabs on your page. So if you click, you see here, there's a home tab and then there's these additional tabs here. And they also have the one with the sub menus. I'm not going to do the sub menus. I'm just going to do the basic ones here. And with that, you're able to set things up. And then once you have that setup done, then you just have to put the content that corresponds with that div in place. And the full example, I'm trying to see if they have one on here. If not, here we go. And so this is the full example. So up here we have the actual tabs themselves, which is an unordered list. And then you have the tab content, and each tab will go into a separate div. And Bootstrap has the CSS and JavaScript already built into it, so that when you set it up in this way, you don't have to figure it out. Long as you don't have to do anything outside of the HTML and CSS classes. Long as you set up the HTML and CSS classes correctly, Bootstrap will know, hey, you're trying to do tabs, and all the other stuff behind the scenes happens. So here we go. I have my code pulled up in Visual Studio Code, and I've actually broken. So if you use a static site generator like I do, you can break your website template up into smaller pieces. And what I have done is I have actually separated this blog list page into I guess a template segment, or template piece from the rest of the main content of the website. And what it does basically, since this is a static site generator, it loops through each of the items and puts them in their appropriate categories. So what I'm going to start off doing first is to create a div, and I'm going to just follow what's here on the W3 Schools website. You could also go to getbootstrap.com and look through their documentation to see what they have and how to do tabs. Let's see, we'll do not tabs. Here we go. So, all right. And so this is how they have it on the Bootstrap website. And it's like I say, W3 Schools and the Bootstrap website are pretty similar in nature with how they describe how to do tabs. All right, so I'm going to take, don't want vertical tabs. I actually want horizontal tabs. I don't know if I want them centered or not. I guess I can figure that specifics out later. All right, so first things first, we're just gonna roll with the tabs and do the horizontal tabs, as that's how I kind of want it laid out. And I'm actually going to do 3 tabs. So I'm going to have actually I don't need this div. I need an unordered list. And with this unordered list, I need a nav class and nav tabs. All right. And I want to have 3 items in my list. And the first item will be all the, and actually I'll go ahead and put the anchor in here too, because I need that for each. So let's see, has a class of active and nav link. Okay, so we'll do all as the link, and then do the class active nav link. Does it have any other classes? No. Okay. All right, and close that and put all as the text. And then I'm going to, not how I meant to copy that. 2, 3. All right. So I have my all, and then I have my technology, if I can spell it correctly. And let's see, got to change this down here. Technology. And I got to remove the active class because there's only supposed to be one active class in this listing. And I'm going to change that to DIY. And then also, if you noticed earlier, I talked about how I have 2 categories, pretty much DIY and technology. But I've been calling those handyman. And the reason being is because, you know, a lot of people don't necessarily correlate DIY to handyman. But because I'm doing this more so as a business, I refer to it as a handyman. So I may actually in on this tab here do DIY/handyman. And if I think it's too confusing, or if you think it's too confusing, let me know in the comments below whether you think it's confusing or not. Whether it should be DIY or it should be handyman, or if you think it should be both. All right, now that I have my tabs, and I think I have the server for this running in the background. Okay, there we go. So my tabs have already appeared. They don't do anything at this point because they're not connected to any content. And what I'm going to have to do is to, all right, so let's go back here to the tabs and not drop downs, not drop downs. All right, and the tab panel, tab pane, where is it? I had it up over here. Okay, here we go. So because I'm doing a loop, it's going to be kind of tricky to get this in here because I want the content, I want all of the content to show on the all tab, but then I want just the technology content to show on the technology tab and just the handyman or DIY content to show just on that tab. And so what I'm going to have to do is to put this loop within that division or container, if you will, that will house that, and then have some conditional logic that as you get to each link in the list, that it needs to determine where to put that link in, you know, which sub div, if you will. All right, so we're going to start at the top. I'm going to actually go div class and call it tab content. And I know what you're thinking, well, can you use different class names? No. Why? Because Bootstrap already has the class names defined in its setup, and unless you want to go and change Bootstrap to make it custom for your particular site, you can't go and change the names. All right, now that we have that outside container, so what I'm gonna do is go ahead and set up the inside containers here. And I'm gonna set them up at the very top, and then I'm gonna move my for loop around as needy. Actually, I'm not gonna set them up at the top. I'm gonna set them up within here, and I actually need to, okay. All right, so we got a div with the ID, and the ID needs to match the links that you have and in your menu. So the first ID will be for home with a class of tab pane. Do I really want it? I don't want it to fade. And so if I change my mind, I'll change my mind later, but I don't want it to fade right now. All right, and then the next one will be technology, as the ID, and class tab pane. And the last div ID, we'll call it DIY with the class of tab pane. Now you're probably asking, well, what if I want to use more than 3 tabs? You can do that. You just repeat this same set of code here as many times as you need to. I only have a need for 3 tabs, thus only doing 3 tabs. All right, so if the navigation item has children, which it does, and I think what I'm actually do is to copy this inner loop here. All right, so I'm gonna copy this out and put this in just an empty file for the sake of this, because I'm going to make some adjustments and I might end up breaking something and want to be able to easily refer back to that. All right, all right, so I want to be able to show the date and I want to be able to show each item. And so what I did was, okay, here we go. All right, so I have a UL for each item within that list. I know that was like so redundant. Let me try that again. I have a unordered list for or a list item for each blog post. And so to maintain that same appearance, but just add the tabs in, I need to have that back in place. And then I need to also copy, well, I need to copy this whole section here, I believe. Yes. So I need to copy this entire for loop. No, I should not have to copy the entire loop. Okay, so I need to comment that out because I don't need that. And I'm actually going to take this here. So if the navigation item has children, and if there is blog in the navigation URL and the navigation item is not equal to, the navigation title is not equal to blog, then we want to not do that though. Wait a minute. All right, so I need to figure out how to do, I might have to do this multiple, trying not to do it multiple times, but, oh, I should not have to do this multiple times, should I? Okay, so if well, I probably will have to because of the fact it is, so when you write the page in the static site generator, you're having to write it top down. So I was trying to get around that, but there's no easy way to get around that unless I put all the posts into another variable and then take that variable and drop it in and so forth. And that makes it a little bit more complex. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. So that is, all right, so we'll start with so this is the all tab, essentially, the content that will populate the all. So I can go ahead and copy and paste that in directly as is because it's going to be there regardless of what is going in. Now, as for the technology and the DIY categories where the edits will have to be made so that they are done correctly. All right, so we need to correct the indentation on this and remove this blank line. All right, now if I only want the posts that have the nav category, and for this one, I only want them if they have the category of technology. So I'm going to update this condition to say, and if nav item meta category equals technology, then put that onto that tab. We're going to remove that piece of text because if you're on the technology tab, you don't need to list that this post is a technology post. That's kind of redundant. All right, and since we have done it for that one, we can come down to the DIY category and copy and paste the same that we did for the technology and just change the category to handyman, because in the post themselves they actually have a category of handyman, not DIY. All right, and the rest of this should be the same. So if I get rid of from, let's see. All right, so if I remove this set of content, and we're actually going to uncomment that, and then we're going to remove that, and let's see if everything lines up. It looks like it does. Nav item children, whoops. And I'm going to put this over here for safekeeping for the moment. I could have just commented out, but I found that with this particular static site generator for using MK Docs, it actually, even if you comment out the HTML and the text, it still compiles or tries to still validate this, I guess, Python text or whatever that is using to generate the dynamic portions of the content. So what I usually do is just take it out completely so that it's not doing that. All right, now that I have saved the page, if I come back to here, let's see. All right, so blog should work, and it is not working. Let's see what kind of error that we have in the log. All right, and I think because I use a single equals instead of a double equal, it is not playing nice with that. All right, so let's try that again, and let's see what is it rebuilding? Looks like it is. Let's see if we get another error. I guess it did rebuild. All right, there we go. All right, so we have our all. Let's see if we switch to technology. It is not switching. It's not switching. All right. So what did I miss? So I forgot the data toggle tab, attributes. All right, so we go back to the menu, and we need that data toggle on the anchor link. So put that there, there, and there. All right, now if we try this again, while it refreshes, and while it refreshes, if this content has been helpful, or are you learning anything? If so, please give it a thumbs up. That's the way I know that you're actually learning out of this. And it appears that it is now working. As you see, as I click the various tabs, the body of the page actually changes. All right. And I'm gonna go back, after this video and make some adjustments to like this padding here, because it's literally right up under the tab, and that's not something I want. I also want to better define this tab. As you see, the tab is not really, there's a gray line here. You may or may not be able to see that on the video, but I really want to be able to actually make a tab look like a tab, kind of like how this is here, where it's actually changing color. So that has to be done in the CSS that I have defined for my website. So that's, again, minor. Just have to find the class that matches this tab and set the background color and any other text color or something of that nature out on that. So that concludes this video on how to set up tabs on your website using Bootstrap. Hopefully you've learned something. I know this is kind of a mix of, Bootstrap as well as the static site generator, but it's pretty simple to do. Again, if you have any questions, drop those down below in the comments, or if you don't want to put your comment down below or question down below, you can hit me up on Instagram and Twitter at almostengr, and you can check out my website, thealmostengineer.com, where you can see this actually working. And until next time, peace out.